Hello, and thank you for stopping by yet another edition of the Massachusetts Whiskey Reviews on YouTube. My name is Thomas Metal 75, and yes, this is your Massachusetts Whiskey Reviews. And this has been a bottle I've been looking forward to trying for quite some time since I heard about it and since I've heard the hype online and it not being traditionally a super pricey bottle of bourbon. We're doing bourbon today. Once I saw it here locally in my area, I knew I had to buy this and see what the hype was all about. If you like your Weller products and you like Maker's Mark, Larceny Bourbon, here's one for you from the Green River Distillery. This is the Green River Wheated Bourbon Sour Mash Whiskey. And this bottle cost me $31.99. And this is a 45% alcohol by volume, 90 proof, wheated, Kentucky straight wheated bourbon whiskey. On the back of the labeling, they say, a legacy revived, founded by John W. McCulloch in 1885 as Tennessee's 10th oldest distillery. Green River was celebrated for quality and has become known as, quote, the whiskey without regrets, before being lost to history after Prohibition. Once again, Green River whiskey is crafted at its original home. This wheated bourbon showcases a classic Kentucky profile with a smooth, balanced taste. And this is distilled and bottled by Green River Distilling Company in Owensburg, Kentucky. Distillery number DSP-KY-10. And that is your distillery number 10. And this is a cool bottle. It's in the shape of a horseshoe. And there's a bar top game where you can throw a penny or some kind of a coin, try to get it right in the middle of the horseshoe. Pretty cool. All right, what else can I tell you really quickly about the wheated bourbon whiskey? Again, we talked about this being 45% alcohol by volume, 90 proof. It is a sour mashed product comprising of 70% corn, 21% wheat, and 9% malted barley. So we talked about they were founded in 1885 by John McCulloch, the 10th oldest licensed distillery, should I add, in Kentucky. And they stopped production in 1955, and then they reopened at the same distillery in the same home in 2016. And the bourbon we get now from Green River, their products are owned by Bardstown Bourbon Company. Cool stuff. Hopefully that means we'll get some Bardstown bourbon one of these days. All right, I'm not getting a cork pop. Hardly any. But it is a real cork. Very cool. And before I do that, it does have something that kind of looks like a tax stamp or tax tape on it. There we go. All right, a lot of people say if you can't find Weller Special Reserve, that could this be the substitute for you? I have had that whiskey. I don't know why I never reviewed it, but I will give it the 6-point rating scale that our buddy Tanner from the East Coast Liquor Reviews channel of YouTube, go check them out, created for whiskeys and basically any spirits. So 100-point rating system, look/aesthetics and value get up to 10 points, and aroma, taste, mouthfeel, and finish get up to 20 points. So here we go with the Green River Kentucky straight wheated bourbon. I forget how old this is. I think BreakingBourbon.com's website was like 4 to 6 years, maybe, they thought, on this bourbon. Excellent labeling, cool aesthetics with the horseshoe look to it. I do like this nice dark coppery color. Not super, super, super dark, but it's not light either. And there is some nice legs forming. Really, really, really cool stuff. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Let's go on to the aroma, shall we? On the Green River Kentucky Straight Wheated Bourbon. Second time I've poured out of the bottle, so we'll see what I think of the flavor. Today, I'm getting strong floral notes. There's like a really flowery floral note to it. I'm definitely getting that wheated mash bill really lends itself. The wheat, I find, really lends itself to freshly baked bread, like a white bread, or maybe even like a sourdough, maybe more like a white bread, a country white bread. I am getting some light caramels, some light brown sugars, some light toffee, some citrusy notes in the background too, mixed with the green apple. Yeah. Let's reserve judgment on the scoring of aroma. Let's get a little taste, shall we? Cheers to you all. And I will have some water on the side, maybe add some, to see if it changes flavors. Cheers. So yeah, there's your dough. There's your baked bread. A little bit of a doughy cinnamon roll. I didn't get as much cinnamon or baking spices at the moment as I am in the taste here. So cinnamon dough, baked bread, bakery stuff. I'm getting a little bit of a citrus in the background, almost like an orangey, citrusy note. The wheat has this little funky, earthy element to it, that doughy, yeasty thing. There's a fresh cut grass? No. Wait a minute. There's definitely a nice sweetness of the corn. Drink a little bit of water. There's a touch of alcohol, but it's really not super pronounced. But it's a little bit in there. There's a little bit of a hug. After some water. Oh yeah, there's the brown sugar. Some vanillas are coming out. There's a nice citrusy note in the background there. Yeah. For $31, that's pretty good. The mouthfeel is on the medium side, actually. There's somewhat of an oiliness. I don't know if I would say it's creamy, but there's some amount of oiliness to this particular bourbon. So I'll already judge the mouthfeel. Let's say the mouthfeel's a 17. And let's look at the finish here. After I get a swig of water. Let's see how long the finish is and what kind of flavor the finishing has to the bourbon. So I'm getting left with the sweet floral flavors to the bourbon. So definitely sweet throughout the entire sip. 70% corn, there's a lot of sweetness. There's definitely a sweetness riding throughout on the finish. There's a little bit of is it like a pepperiness or something like that, maybe? Perhaps there's a little bit of a pepperiness in there, or maybe even like slightly minty, but it's not rye. Maybe more peppery. It's just pretty sweet with that peppery bite towards the end, and not the most long, luxurious finish. But yeah, nice, sweet, and spicy finish, kind of. So, not the greatest thing there, but it doesn't fall off a cliff like some bourbons do. I'll give that 16. There could be more intense characters, but for 45%, I'm not going to complain there. I think the value, so the value is at a 10, and this is definitely, for me, maybe it's just a couple of pours into the or out of the bottle so far. I give this a 9 for this being a 31, I think it was $99 bottle of bourbon. I'm not complaining, and if I didn't, so I did get it in my local area, but I had to travel to a store roughly around the half an hour mark away. So if it were in my hometown, I would buy this thing pretty regularly. Probably would. All right, let's go back to the scoring for aroma. So as it's opened up in the glass, I am getting an ethanol punch, but it's not super bad. I gotta just move my nose away from the glass a little bit. I'm getting nice floral notes. I am getting the baking spices now, more prevalently with vanillas and cinnamon. That cinnamon roll dough thing I get from wheated bourbons is in this, definitely. It's a little musty in the background, and there's a little bit of a citrus note, like a orangey note. Not too shabby at all, but it does have a slight itty-bitty youthfulness to it. I'll give that a 16. And back to the taste. Not a bunch of woody elements, but I guess I can find it towards the finish as well. Some of the wood element. Baking spice, that cinnamon rolled dough notes in there, that floral note. There's a touch of a citrusy aspect to it in the towards that finish, the end of the sip, back of the palate. It's a little bitter, but not really bad. I think this goes, I'd have to do some other wheated bourbons. I don't really remember this versus the Weller, but I seem to remember the Weller's a little bit more rounded off in some of the bitter notes and the woodier note there. But I don't mind this. I think a 17. We get some water. We take one more quick sip, and we'll tally it up and conclude the review for the Green River Kentucky Straight Wheated Bourbon. Ooh, I'm getting more caramel sweetness now. Ooh. Just a touch bitter. But now I'm getting much more of that sweet cinnamon caramel coating in the mouth flavors. Maybe not a 20, but I'll stick with the 17. You could convince me of an 18, but I think 17 is good. So, for the Green River Wheated Bourbon, we have an 8 out of 10 for the look and aesthetics, a 16 for the aroma. The taste will get a 17. The mouthfeel will get a 17. The finish will get a 16. And the value will get a 9. For Thomas Metal 75, overall ratings, or overall rating of the Green River Wheated Bourbon, Kentucky Straight Wheated Bourbon, at an 83 out of 100. And as I conclude with this review, I would say if the mouthfeel was a bit richer and the finish had more developed time or developed further and was just longer, followed by some of the bitter notes. If those kind of topped off or backed off a little bit, I could see this thing getting a much higher rating. But as it stands, I think an 83 is not a bad score whatsoever. I like doing these reviews with the number rating scale. Thank you, Tanner, from the East Coast Liquor Reviews, because it keeps these reviews you see of spirits super honest. And I may try to do this with some of the beers, too. So, this has been Thomas Metal 75, Massachusetts Whiskey Reviews, taking a look at the newly acquired and newly distributed into the Massachusetts area, Green River and their wheated bourbon. Kentucky Straight wheated bourbon. And until next time, keep tasting those great whiskeys. Cheers. See you soon. Bye.